Okay, this is head coach Ross for the Tax Gym Street Warrior in Gia Uhuru. And I've really been asked lots and lots of questions about the more controversial subjects, police brutality, racism, illegal activities, and what our position is about that and what have you. So let me just go ahead and dive right into one of the most basic and critical cases, the Mike Brown shooting, which spawned hands up, don't shoot, and put the Black Lives Matter group on the map thereafter. Now, most of you who are conservatives are of the opinion that Megyn Kelly is, which is as follows. Let me go ahead and play that for you.
Also developing tonight, a liberal Washington Post columnist is now the target of serious backlash from the left after a moment of brutal honesty about the shooting of Michael Brown in Ferguson, Missouri. Jonathan Capehart was one of the media figures who criticized police and how, after the hands up, don't shoot myth quickly spread in the hours after Officer Darren Wilson shot Brown last summer in self-defense. But Capehart, unlike many others, actually took time to read the final DOJ report, realized that Officer Wilson's actions were justified, and became one of the very few brave enough to admit he was wrong.
Brown never surrendered.
Okay, I want to stop that real quick because I want to address this. I have the Department of Justice report. Not only that, I know that none of you will actually go and order it. So what I suggest you do is go to Google, look up Eric Holder Ferguson DOJ report. You will either get a copy of it, you will see the video wherein Mr. Ferguson, who was the former United States Attorney General and the one who oversaw the 2 federal investigations into this matter, you will either get a video of him telling you what is actually in the report in short form, in a 25-minute or so speech, or you will do what I did, which is actually get a copy of the DOJ file wherein the full report is there, and have access to the actual report in the video speech of former U.S. Attorney General Eric Holder when he addresses these matters. Let me make myself perfectly clear here. At no time does Mr. Holder even remotely imply that hands up, don't shoot is a lie. Literally everyone who says that Mr. Holder said so is lying or repeating a lie. You're stupid and you're probably racist. Now, that doesn't mean that you're not well-meaning. It means you're probably racist, you're definitely ignorant, and you didn't do your research. Any of you who disagree with me, I would love to hear from you. Any of you who agree with me, I would love to hear from you in the comment section below, because I have all my facts lined up here. And I'm not just your average guy. Not only am I an expert in self-defense, but I'm pursuing my PhD in African Studies, and I've made a special study of this case. This is the first of several searing interviews that I'm going to give regarding these matters, not just this case, but all the things that are related to it. And let me just get right into where the lies that the conservatives have spread and their cohorts really hit home. Hands up, don't shoot is a lie, they say. No, it's not. Get your hands on the DOJ report. I can read it to you, but you won't sit there in front of the camera for that long and hear me speak it to you. I could tell you, I could just play the Eric Holder's speech for you, but you won't listen that whole time. I'm here to tell you, if you do your own research, if you just YouTube Eric Holder's Ferguson speech, you'll see right away he's never said such a thing. And you will actually go onto Google and see for yourself that the DOJ file never even remotely suggests such a thing. So now how did the whole idea of hands up, don't shoot happen? I'm going to tell you how. Okay? Before I even really get into the business and really just annihilate atomically any minuscule facet of accuracy that might have accidentally attached itself to the racist right, the conservative argument to the contrary, let me actually show you what Mr. Ferguson said, and what led to the notion that hands up, don't shoot is a lie. I'm going to pull up his speech regarding Michael Brown, the press conference there, and I'm going to point up, and I'm going to stop at the point in his speech wherein the conservatives just extrapolated their story.
I'd like to take the next few moments to address the two investigations that the Justice Department has been conducting in Ferguson, Missouri, these last several months. The matter that we are here to discuss is significant, not only because of the conclusions that the Justice Department is announcing today, but also because of the broader conversation and the initiatives that those conversations have inspired across the country on both the local and the national.
Is this a maximum level?
Those initiatives have included extensive and vital efforts to examine the causes of misunderstanding and mistrust between law enforcement officers and the communities that they serve, to support and strengthen our public safety institutions as a whole, and to rebuild confidence wherever it has eroded. Now, nearly 7 months have passed since the shooting death of 18-year-old Michael Brown in Ferguson, Missouri. That tragic incident provoked widespread demonstrations and stirred really strong emotions from those in the Ferguson area and around our nation. It also prompted a federal investigation by the United States Department of Justice, the criminal section of our Civil Rights Division, the United States Attorney's Office for the Eastern District of Missouri, as well as the FBI, seeking to determine whether this shooting violated federal civil rights law. Now, the promise that I made when I went to Ferguson, and at the time that we launched our investigation, was not that we would arrive at a particular outcome, but rather that we would pursue the facts wherever they led. Our investigation has been both fair and rigorous from the start. It has proceeded independently of the local investigation that concluded in November, and it has been thorough. As part of a wide-ranging examination of the evidence, federal investigators interviewed and re-interviewed eyewitnesses and other individuals claiming to have relevant information, and independently canvassed more than 300 residences to locate and to interview additional witnesses. This morning, the Justice Department announced the conclusion of our investigation and released a comprehensive 87-page report documenting our findings and our conclusions that the facts do not support the filing of criminal charges against Officer Darren Wilson in this case. Michael Brown's death, though...
Now, I really want to emphasize that. I want to apologize for the video scrolling down to its thumbnail size. I didn't see that. But I really hope that you heard what former Attorney General Eric Holder said. He said that the facts... As a matter of fact, let's see if I can replay that for you. See if I can replay that for you.
Arrive at a particular outcome, but rather that we would pursue the facts wherever they led. Our investigation has been both fair and rigorous from the start. It has proceeded independently of the local investigation that concluded in November, and it has been thorough. As part of a wide-ranging examination of the evidence, federal investigators interviewed and re-interviewed eyewitnesses and other individuals claiming to have relevant information, and independently canvassed more than 300 residences to locate and to interview additional witnesses. This morning, the Justice Department announced the conclusion of our investigation and released a comprehensive 87-page report documenting our findings and our conclusions that the facts do not support the filing of criminal charges against Officer Darren Wilson in this case.
Okay, now I want you to hear that and understand that. The facts do not support the filing of criminal charges against Officer Darren Wilson in this case. Now, immediately, the conservatives interpreted this as vindication for Officer Darren Wilson, that Michael Brown did charge Darren Wilson and that Darren Wilson did respond in self-defense. Immediately, those of us in the center, left of center, and in the left, the progressive thinkers, concluded that there was foul play and that their government manipulations and oversight and error were protecting yet again, yet another police officer who blatantly killed Mike Brown and should immediately be taken to jail purely because of that. Because of course, hey, you know what? No matter what you slice it, the bottom line is this guy, Officer Wilson, shot and killed an unarmed kid. Okay? So that by itself is murder. No questions about it. That's how a lot of people and lay persons especially interpreted this. Both sides were wrong. The truth is that Eric Holder never concluded that Darren Wilson didn't execute Mike Brown or that he was wrong for doing so. What he said was that there was no legal grounds for action against former Officer Wilson. And here's the reason why. Are any of you familiar with the phrase double jeopardy? Yes, no? Well, let's see if I can help you out with that. Most of you are not familiar with it. You heard of it, some of you, but you don't even know what it really means. Okay, let me tell you. Let me break it out for you. Go to Google and look up double jeopardy law. All right, excuse my cell phone. This is my combat cell phone. Sometimes it gets cracked or whatever, but it's okay. Check it out. It says, let me read it for you. It says double jeopardy is a procedural defense that forbids a defendant from being tried again on the same or similar charges in the same case following a legitimate acquittal or conviction. Why is this of great importance? Well, it's because Eric Holder and the DOJ couldn't find actionable legal cause to bring against Darren Wilson because he was already acquitted by the state grand jury. They in fact found that there was zero evidence to even proceed against filing even criminal charges against former Officer Wilson for killing Mike Brown. This was mind-boggling for the majority of us who don't know Missouri and who don't know the history of those particular state agencies. But I knew is one of the advantages of having a mother and an uncle who are lawyers, and one of the advantages of being this far from being a lawyer myself before I realized I don't like those guys. All right. So, what really happened then? I mean, what's the real deal? What happened in the state level to initiate such a thing, right? I mean, what could have possibly gone down? Well, the short answer is as follows. The state prosecutor, the state attorney general, is a guy named McCullough. Now, McCullough is a known friend and defender of the police. Now, go do your Google here. Go do your Google research. Go look back in the laws. You will see, if you look back in Missouri, if you look back, not even just Ferguson, just Missouri, going back to the 60s, you will discover that there are several dozen cases like Mike Brown's. None of them were convicted. Not a one. So we have history, decades of history, when the same kind of thing is done or similar types of things are done. Either the unarmed black male is either beaten savagely or killed by the same kind of police under the same kind of circumstances, and the ranges of age vary from younger than Mike Brown, 15, 14, 13 in some cases, to even over 50 years old. You see the same kind of thing, same kind of disregard, the same kind of incredible unfair treatment. Now, how could that happen? And in particular, how could that happen in the case of Darren Wilson and Mike Brown? Well, answer is simple. Again, let's do your little research here. And even with just a cursory examination, you run across the report from one Lawrence O'Donnell of MSNBC. Okay? Now, Lawrence O'Donnell is the host of the show on MSNBC called Last Word. And his assistant's research and an examination of the goings-on of the grand jury that was convened by an underling of Mr. McCulley discovered that the instructions, I'm reading now from the web, from the internet, so you guys can go ahead and check it out yourselves and see the source material. See the source material. Get your hands on the DOJ report. See that Mr. Eric Holder never said what the conservatives say he said. And then you take a look, see at what happened on the state level, and you see all kind of illegal shenanigans such as this. The instructions given the Michael Brown grand jury describing the police use of force laws was incorrect and misleading. The background of this situation: Lawrence O'Donnell reported that after reviewing the transcripts of the grand jury, his analysts discovered that the assistant district attorneys working for Bob McCulley gave the juries an outdated copy of Missouri law, which stated all that was required for an officer to use deadly force is their reasonable belief that there was a threat. This means that all the officers had to do is just believe that Michael Brown or whoever posed a threat, not a deadly threat, not a clear and imminent threat, just a threat. Whatever that is, a nebulous definition, which is pretty much whatever the police officer decides it is. And with that belief, the police officer is legally right in killing that person. That is an old law that Mr. McCulley made sure that the grand jury was operating under for 9/10 of the time that they were in session. When I say that is an old law, that law was created in 1985. It's 2016 now. 31 years old. It is a law from Tennessee versus Garner. And the Supreme Court ruled that this law had to include a quote-unquote probable cause requirement. Now, the jurors in the grand jury Bob McCulley, who has spent 25 years defending police officers from all charges, despite the fact that his responsibilities as the state prosecutor is to do the exact opposite. He is to determine precisely what happened and not act as another defense attorney for the police officers. But he's known for doing exactly that, which is contrary to what his office responsibilities are. To continue, Bob McCulley made certain that this misleading information was given to the grand jury directly before Darren Wilson's testimony, giving the impression that all that was required under the law for Wilson to kill Michael Brown with impunity in the constraints of the law itself was former officer Darren Wilson's belief that Mike Brown posed a threat. That deliberate manipulation of the grand jury, along with stocking the grand jury with liars that were so blatant that even Attorney General Bob McCulley himself called several of them liars. He called them liars himself. Go look it up on Google. Check it out. Fact check me, please. I even dare you. Fact check me. Bob McCulley himself called many significant key witnesses who were supporters of the former Officer Darren Wilson's position liars. But in the same breath, he refused to prosecute them. And that is, in and of itself, very, very questionable. Because when you lie under oath, that's called perjury. It is against the law. It is at the very least a misdemeanor. And when you're dealing with a grand jury, it could be a felony. And the state attorney general stated his belief, in fact, his certainty, that these various witnesses were lying, but he refused to go after them. Now, I know I can hear some of my more conservative friends or colleagues whom I fence with regarding political issues will say stuff like, but there were 6 African-American witnesses who said that Michael Brown charged Darren Wilson. Where are they? Who are they? Who said they were? Was it Fox? Or some other conservative pundits who've made a career of lying about black people? The same Fox that adjusted data and information to make President Obama look like he was staring at the butt of a 17-year-old girl when he never was? The consistent liars who have been outed over and over and over again for the morons that they are? Who are these mystical, magical witnesses? Because you know what? The witnesses who were recorded at the time by the people who were on the scene, more than half of whom didn't even know each other, all said the same thing, and they were from all walks of life and all racial backgrounds. Let me show you what I mean. This is the white construction workers' witnesses to Mike Brown being shot with hands up. They're right there on the scene, along with the other black witnesses. Notice how they see exactly the same thing that the witnesses, the black witnesses said, the African-American witnesses said. And these people don't even know they're being recorded. In fact, neither they nor anyone else except for Mike Brown's one friend were allowed to present testimony to the grand jury. And even if they were, which they weren't, but even if they were, let's give our conservative cohorts the strongest argument. Let's assume that everybody who disagreed with them and said this, who were right there on the scene and were recorded on the scene saying this.
The men you see in this exclusive cell phone video hear gunshots. They are about 50 feet away from Michael Brown and Officer Darren Wilson. The unidentified person recording this video captured the witness's reaction during the final moments of the shooting. Both men were
Did you see that? Did you see that? Did you see that? 50 feet away, eyewitnesses 50 feet away. They are literally about the distance. Come here, will you please, camera, come with me, please. They're about from here to that green electric charger here. 50 feet away. 50 feet away. Witnessed the whole thing. Their response was, he had his fucking hands up, his effing hands up. Hands up, don't shoot. All of the witnesses said that, who were right there on the spot. Most of whom stated that they were never interviewed at the state level by Bob McCulley. Several of them were right there on the spot, backed up behind Darren Wilson's police vehicle, and were recording that information with their cell phones. They gave that information to the Ferguson police, and that data was never seen again. Okay, let's again give our conservative cohorts the greatest argument. Let's pretend that everybody's lying. Let's pretend that, you know what, black people will just back up black people just because they're black, which is a tremendous lie. Those of us who are black, we know that's not true. But to our conservative cohorts, that makes perfect sense whenever the police are involved and one of us get killed. Well, you know what really would tell the story? Officer Wilson unleashed 15 shots at Mike Brown. Where are those other bullets? How is it that you can have an expert crime scene team, all with the CSI, miss anywhere from 6 to 9 bullets in a specified area with their microscopic analytical tools? Their tools allowing them to analyze evidence all the way down to its microscopic level. Their computers allowing them to project the mathematical probabilities and certainties that accompany shooting. Yeah, you know what? Remember, this very same untrustworthy Ferguson police and the Missouri State Police had control of the crime scene for hours. They left Mike Brown's body out on the street like a horrible piece of meat, bloody. Didn't even pick it up, didn't show any respect whatsoever. Because they were able to control the scene, it is my belief that they manipulated the relevant data. The reason why I reached that conclusion is because through the process of elimination, that's the only thing left to say. There's no way, none, that they could have missed those bullets if they didn't want to find them. I take that back. There's no way they could have missed those bullets unless they didn't want to find them. I don't believe they missed the bullets. I believe they found those bullets and constructed the narrative that they constructed designed to prevent Darren Wilson from being convicted. Why is that? Because Missouri is corrupt. Those of us who know, you already know, I see you out in the STL, I see you. We already know. We already know. Those of you who don't know anything about East Boogie and STL, I'm not talking to you, all right? But those of us who have seen this for our entire lives, those of us who actually are objective enough to do our own research prior to formulating an opinion, and then allowing the information, the facts themselves to walk us along the lines to our conclusion, that's 90% of us. Regardless of race, gender, class, or nationality, you're who I'm talking to. This is what you need to do. Shut out the narrative from the right and the left. You activate your own brain and do your own research. Once you do that, you will reach the ineluctable conclusion. Darren Wilson killed Mike Brown. Hands up, don't shoot it is not only the truth, but I can provide you 2 other instances in which that's happened and nobody said anything. One, they shot a Latino male whose hands were up in the air and he was wearing no shirt whatsoever, and he wasn't even moving. This execution is on video. The other one was in Florida. This brother, who was a mental health expert, was actually stretched out on the ground with his hands over his head. Looked like he was trying to make a darn snow angel. Looked like he was doing the reverse Superman. You know how Superman flies this way? Imagine Superman was on his back. Police officer shot him anyway. Ferguson and Missouri have one of the worst civil rights records in the history of the modern United States, from 1949 and on up. Only Mississippi and 2 other states stomp on Ferguson and Missouri. Remember also, there are at least a dozen other cases that I was able to unearth with just a Google search that were remarkably similar to the Mike Brown case. Now I want you to do your own research. Google Mike Brown in Missouri. Google cases of police brutality, white officers, black male, Missouri. See what happens. See if you agree with me or don't. Leave your comments at the end of this video in the comment section. Hit that like and subscribe button. You need to do that for us so we can have this conversation. Share it with your friends. All right? Look forward to hearing from you and reading from you. Head Coach Ross of Njia Uhuru, Swahili term meaning the way of freedom, the family's fighting system. Take care of yourself. Asante sana. Ashe.